Here we describe a technique for anatomic distal biceps tendon repair with all suture cortical buttons. Here are our relevant disclosures. A longitudinal incision is made just proximal to the bicipital tuberosity, and the arm is held in maximal supination throughout the case to protect the posterior interosseous nerve. The retracted biceps tendon is identified and freed from surrounding adhesions. The diseased distal tendon stump is gently debrided to a healthy tissue, and the distinct long and short heads are identified. 2 locking whip stitch loop sutures are placed securely through the tendon, repeating the locking loop process 3 to 4 times each in a proximal to distal direction. Care should be taken to ensure the thick end of the suture is placed through the tendon. Distally, 1 whip stitch suture is exited out through the short head, while the other whip stitch suture is exited out the long head. The drill guide for the all-suture cortical button is placed on the ulnar and central portion of the short head footprint on the bicipital tuberosity, and a 2.6 mm drill bit is used to open the cortex unicortically. An all-suture cortical button is placed through the guide and fully malleted into the intramedullary cavity. The button is then docked on the endosteal surface with short tugs on the suture. After the button is deployed, it is important to ensure the linking shuttling sutures slide easily. These steps are then repeated with another all-suture button on the ulnar and central portion of the long head footprint on the bicipital tuberosity. The whip stitch suture limbs from the short head are then passed through the corresponding cortical button using the shuttling sutures. Only a short section of the whip stitch suture limb should be passed through the linking shuttling suture to ensure easy passage of the suture limb through the cortical button without significant friction. These steps are then repeated to pass the whip stitch suture limbs from the long head through the corresponding cortical button. After all suture limbs are passed through the buttons, the distal biceps tendon is reduced completely down to bicipital tuberosity with the arm held in 30 to 60 degrees of flexion using the tension slide technique. The sutures from both limbs are then tied to finalize the anatomic repair. The repair construct is checked to ensure strong fixation and no gap formation with the arm extended. The wound is thoroughly irrigated and closed in layers. A well-padded splint immobilizing the arm in 90 degrees of flexion and neutral rotation is applied. Here is the final construct.